Module 1 study guide. Let's look at the first few problems. So George works on the 30th floor. He took the elevator to the cafeteria on the 7th floor. How many floors did he travel? Okay, so this might be easier if we thought of it, if we drew a picture. So let's come over here. He is working in a building. This is going to be the ground floor. He works on the 30th floor. He took the elevator to the cafeteria on the 7th. How many floors did he travel? So he started at 30 and he goes to 7. How many is that? This is pretty much asking what's the difference between 30 and 7. So we could do that. 30 minus 7, and 30 minus 7 is 23. So he traveled 23 floors. 2. Which of the following has the greatest value? Okay. So here we need to solve these to find which one has the greatest value. So A is -3 plus -4 minus -2. We don't like to subtract, so we're going to change this. So let's rewrite this. -3 plus -4. We're not going to change that. But instead of subtracting, since we're dealing with negatives, we don't want to subtract. We change this from subtraction to addition. But instead of subtracting, we're going to add the opposite. So when we change subtraction to addition, we have to change this to its opposite, which becomes 2. So minus -2 is the same as plus 2. Now, let's combine the negatives, combine the positives, and then we'll solve. So -3 plus -4. We have 3 negatives, we're adding 4 more, so we have 7 negatives plus 2. Now, we have a negative plus a positive. Which one has the greater absolute value? The negative, so -7, which tells us our answer is going to be negative. Now, we take the absolute values and subtract them. The absolute value of 7 is 7. The absolute value of 2 is 2. So 7 minus 2 is 5, so A is -5. On to B. B, -3 minus -4 minus -2. Lots of minuses with negatives, so we're going to change them. So let's ignore these for right now. Let's change this. Instead of -3 minus -4, we're going to do -3. Instead of subtracting, we're going to add the opposite. So add, and the opposite of -4 is 4. Now, we're subtracting -2. We don't want to subtract, so instead of subtracting, we're going to add the opposite, and the opposite of -2 is 2. So let's combine the positives, combine the negatives. There's only one negative, so we'll keep that. -3 plus, then we have 4 plus 2. 4 positives plus 2 positives gives us 6. -3 plus 6. A negative plus a positive. Which one has the greater absolute value? Which one's further from 0? The 6. So the answer is going to be positive. Now take their absolute values and subtract them. So 6 minus 3 is 3. So B is 3. C. -3 plus -4 minus 2. So this is addition, we like that, so we're just going to rewrite that -3 plus -4. Here's subtraction, we don't want to subtract, especially when we're dealing with negatives, so instead of subtracting, we're going to add the opposite. So subtraction becomes addition, and the opposite of 2 is -2. So they're all negatives. So 3 negatives plus 4 negatives plus 2 negatives. So we have 3 here, we're going to add 4 more, this is 7 negatives. Plus 2 more, and that gives us 9 negatives. So C is -9. Moving on to D. We have -3. -3 minus -4 minus 2. So subtraction, we're going to change the subtraction to addition. -3. We're going to add the opposite. The opposite of -4 is 4. And instead of subtracting, we're going to add the opposite. The opposite of 2 is -2. instead of subtracting, we add the opposite. So combine the negatives. We have 3 negatives plus 2 more negatives. Gives us 5 negatives, and then we have 4 positives. Positive plus a negative. Which one is the greater absolute value? The negative, so the answer is negative. Now take the absolute values and subtract them. So we have the absolute value of negative 5 is 5, minus 4 is 1. So D is negative 1. The question here, which of the following has the greatest? So we're comparing negative 5, 3, negative 9, and 1. So if we were to make a number line, let's put 0 here. We have negative 5, B is 3, C is negative 9, and D is negative 1. Which one is the greatest? So which one's further to the right? 3, which makes B our answer. On to 3. Which of the following is modeled with the number line below? So, if we're looking at 3, we have this number line. So we start at 1, and they all start at 1, so we can't eliminate any options. Then we're going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. A only moves 4, so that can't be it. And D only moves 4, that can't be it. So, let's just write out B and C and see what we get. 1 plus negative 5. So we have positive plus a negative. The negatives have the greater absolute value, so it's going to be negative answer. Take the absolute values and subtract them. The absolute value of negative 5 is 5, minus 1 is 4. Now let's do C. 1 minus negative 5. We don't like to subtract with negatives. It becomes complicated. So instead of subtracting, we add the opposite. So this becomes 1 plus 5. And 1 plus 5 is 6. Where do we end up? 1. And we move to the left 5 times. We end up at negative 4. So B has to be our answer.